I've had this deck once before and I let it go because I was struggling to read with it. Here's the black and white. Like the black and white, I kind of have this really visceral reaction to. So here you go. You can see the colored part, and then here's the black and white. Hi everyone, Summer with AstariaSen, and I'm back. We're gonna do a walkthrough of the Secret Forest, Tarot of the Secret Forest. It is by the same creator who did the Fairy Lights Tarot, and it is just as intricate as the Fairy Lights Tarot. So this deck has two sides, a colored side and a black and white side, and they definitely give off different vibes for sure. So I'm going to do a walkthrough kind of. I haven't decided if I should do both sides or not, but I might. Like by the end of this, I might. I don't want this to be super long either though, so I mean it's one of those things. So I'll probably go ahead and do the colored side first, and then I'll do the black and white side, like just flip it over and do the black and white side so you guys can kind of see how that looks. But the way the cards read are really interesting because even though these cards don't have a back necessarily, as I'm going to show you, it gives a double meaning to the reading as well, kind of like with the Fairy Lights, only instead of it being two separate images put together, this is the same image but in two separate ways. So it kind of gives a different effect. It doesn't mean negative though, not necessarily. I mean, you can obviously read it that way. The black and white side could easily be like the shadow side or something like that. But either way, it's a really unique reading experience, and these cards are so pretty. Obviously very Fae because, you know, that's me. So, okay. So I'm going to go through these. These are in order, but when I turn them over to do the second side walkthrough, it's not going to be in order anymore. So just be aware of that. So they're very pretty. These cards are actually super gorgeous. They're very detailed. They have a lot going on in them. They're meant, even though they follow the RWS system. Here, let me see. Can I move this over? There we go. Oh, that's an interesting Three of Swords. Wow. You can definitely feel like a despair coming off of these, a loneliness. Even though they follow the RWS system for the main part, they're actually meant to be read more intuitively. If you use the RWS system, you can easily apply it to this, but there's definitely a lot of intuitive feelings that come along with this deck. And this deck isn't made to be all happy, happy, joy, joy. It's definitely made for, you know, that overgrown garden that has all the brambles and has bugs laying around and has different things going on that people just don't get to right away until they're ready to like tear apart their stuff, or maybe it's the later part of the season, you know, that kind of thing. So that's something to really consider. Is this deck could easily be a seasonal deck for somebody. But there's a lot going on in these cards, and they are just so pretty. Look at that. So pretty. So very, very pretty. Oh my goodness. Look at that. Wow. There's so much going on in the cards. So much. The art, of course, is absolutely gorgeous. And I do like the, how do I put this? The feel of it it's not like it's completely finished feel, even the colored parts, because there's stuff that's not completely detailed, like in the wings and stuff, but the people are a little bit more detailed. You know what I mean? So there's like finished and unfinished also on this card, but in a different way, not the same way. Not the same way as the backs, okay? Not the same way at all. But man, I've had this deck once before and I let it go because I was struggling to read with it. Obviously, you can tell this is probably not the greatest deck for a beginner necessarily, not unless that beginner can really just put aside the double-sidedness of it and be able to read the RWS system or just work on the RWS system. But wow, Seven of Cups. That's an interesting take. There's a lot going on in these cards. And they're kind of like, I almost get like, I don't know, like the darker aspect of the Fae feel to it. Like this, they're still mischievous. There's still a lot going on, but they're not really paying that close attention to the humans, these Fae. they're kind of doing their own thing and, you know, messing around in their own world. Wands, salamander, nice. Oh, this one has a little bit more of the animals on it. Look at that guy. Isn't that cute? Oh my gosh. I like the wands. Definitely a lot of ambitious energy going on with those, with like the color of the reds. The salamander fire energy is definitely there. Wow. He just ran with that salamander energy, didn't he? But so gorgeous. The cards are just phenomenal. And I do believe he's only created the 2 decks, which is this deck and the Fairy Lights Tarot. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the only 2 that I know of that he has created. But they're so stunning. Look at that. That's just so pretty. Okay, so let's move this out of the way so that I can continue. Wow. I really like that, like just the way it looks. And as a sword, as an Ace of Swords, interesting. All right, so we've got 2 of Swords. And we do have 2 swords going on here. Definitely more intuitive hits going on. Oh, that's an interesting 3 of Swords. Wow. You can definitely feel like a despair coming off of these, a loneliness that just I don't feel with other 3 of Swords. How interesting. Definitely something that I would have to really work with in the little white book, because it has just this little tiny little white book. Let me see. Little tiny little white book right here. It just does the meanings in short form right here. It's literally like a little white book, and then it has it in the other language. And it's got like a little bit in the beginning talking about traditional meanings, combined meanings, that kind of thing. So it does give you a little bit to go from when you're reading with this deck, but still, there's just a lot to really like dive into with this. It kind of reminds me of the Hidden Realms deck, because in her book, in the Hidden Realms book, she talks about diving into the cards and sitting and meditating, interacting with the cards in your meditation, and you're looking, you know, creating the story and the feel and how things go. So I find that really interesting that these cards also have that same kind of feel. And even in the book, there's definitely that introduction of, yes, sit with the cards, read them intuitively, see what you can find out by walking into this picture and interacting with the elements of the picture, whether they're animal, whether they're people, whether they're nature. So it's going to be really interesting for me to dive into this deck and explore it more now that I have a lot more knowledge of the tarot than I did a few years ago, which is why I originally had given it up. I don't think this deck normally has black edges. I think somebody colored it black. This was a used deck. I did not get this brand new. But I haven't checked to make sure that that's right, because I don't know. All right, so now let's go ahead, put these back together, and we will do it the second way. We'll turn it around, and here's the black and white. Like the black and white, I kind of have this really visceral reaction to. So here you go. You can see the colored part, and then here's the black and white. And it's just like hand drawn. It's not colored in. It doesn't have all the details. Stuff's missing. It's not the perfect rendition of the card, which I find really interesting to acknowledge. But I feel uncomfortable. Like this part of the, look at that, he's going to stab her in the back. I didn't even notice that when I went through it the first time. Wow. Holy cow. So, I mean, I can see different things going into this using the black and white side. Wowza. That's intense. For me, this feels a lot more intense. It feels, I don't know, kind of more in your face rather than in your gut. Like, it seems like it might give you some brutal readings, probably, for sure. Oh, look at that. I do find it interesting the way the black and white looks versus the colored version. It's so different. Just not, it's kind of unexpected. And like I said, reading with this deck would take some getting used to, for sure. If you're reading for other people, it would take even more getting used to, because you would have to really like put a little bit more effort into these kinds of readings. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a really unique experience for somebody who is a reader to explore. So, I mean, I may try it at my next tarot reading class, because I'll be going to more of those as it progresses into the more springy and summer weather because I'll be able to get out easier. And the shop that I get my tarot decks from and my trade-ins and stuff like that, and who does the, oh my gosh, my words are failing me. But the lady who actually holds the beginner tarot classes and stuff like that, it's just where you go in and practice reading is all it is. But I think this deck will go really good with it, with that kind of style of practice readings. And she does them like once a month. So it could be a really interesting experience to read with other people for this. I'll start with myself because obviously this is a lot to take in, just like the Fairy Lights Tarot is. I think this one might be a little bit more daunting for me than the Fairy Lights Tarot, just because you get, I mean, you have 78 cards that are your normal tarot cards, but then you have the whole back of the 78 cards, which is what, 156 cards? You are now reading with 156 different interpretations of things. That's insane. That is a lot to think about, a lot to really explore. And I'm not off to the idea at all. Like, it's kind of a challenge and also intriguing because both of these sides have so much intuitive things going on. What's this one? Oh, I might have had that one upside down. Sorry. It's a little hard sometimes. Oh, maybe I got some of these upside down. I'm sorry. My bad. We'll just, take a look at these. Holy cow. Look at that. That skull on the back. I didn't even notice that in the colored version at all. Wow. How crazy is that? I think this is the Devil card. Still pretty. Even this is still pretty even in black and white. But you could definitely see the lack of details. So it's kind of like, definitely has more of a put your meanings into it and explore it more kind of feel to it, which is really crazy. Now this is interesting because it's blurry. Whoa. Like that doesn't even feel like the same card to me. Wow. Holy cow. How crazy is that? Sorry, getting off on my own little things here. It's just so kind of intense. Look at that. It's like speared. That almost feels speared, that 8 of Cups. Wow. So definitely a different feel in the black and white versions. Definitely different. Like I said, I have a very visceral reaction to these cards in the black and white version. And they make me uncomfortable, but not in like a super bad way. It's just one of those ways like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to look at these completely different than what I originally thought. That almost looks like a dead salamander. It's not, I don't think. He's sitting on it. Does that make it dead? I don't know. But wow, that's a lot to really explore and think about for sure. Wow. Okay, so for a pairing, I did pull out a deck for a pairing. I don't know that there's a lot of decks that would go with these cards. I'm not saying there isn't any, but it would take me, oops, go back out this way. It would take me a while to really play with this deck to see what I think might go with them. But I thought that the Brian Froud deck might actually go with these. So I wanted to kind of explore it, I guess. Let's explore it really quick and see if we can make these play together. I mean, it's possible that they won't. But I don't know, the feel of the borders, right? The feel of the borders around these feels very similar. And the feeling of the cards. Because the Brian Froud deck is also a very intuitive deck as well. I wonder, what about the black and white side? I mean, the black and white side could work too with this deck. Interesting. Very interesting. I do think it could work. I do think it would definitely give off some really interesting readings. And if you're intuitively hitting it, I mean, I have trouble reading the cards on the bottom, so I have to know the cards. But if I'm just intuitively looking at it, look at the difference in the wings here. I mean, that in itself, how that one's straight up, that one's straight up, that one's sitting down, but it all still has like the same look about it. That's really cool, actually. And I think it would play in a unique way into a reading. Let's see what a black and white look with this way. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. I mean, I could get on board with this easily. I really think I could get on board easily with this. It's working out. It's definitely working out. I think I like it. Yeah, but if there's any decks you would pair with it, I would be interested to know what you might try to pair with it. There might be a black and white oracle. If somebody knows a black and white oracle, maybe there's a black and white oracle you can pair it with, which could be interesting too. Because I mean, what you pair with the colored side and what you pair with the black and white side might come out completely different, right? Oh, look at that. That's pretty cool, actually. I do like that. How interesting. All right. Well, that's what I'm going to go with. Like I said, I really don't have a lot of cards to pair with this. This is interesting, though, how they're all facing the same direction that way. Interesting. So I don't have a lot to pair with this one just yet. And if in the future I come up with some more to pair with, I might try that. But for now, I'm going to leave it at that because this was already pretty long for me. And there's just a lot going on in these cards. So this is what they'll look like, if you fan them out either direction. And it's going to be one of those things you just really would have to get used to. You just really would have to get used to. But how interesting for a black and white deck, right? All right, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a very great day.